What if our entire picture of the ancient world has been, well, incomplete? Today, we're diving into how new scholarship is uncovering some incredible gender diversity in a past we thought we knew so well.
So, when you think of ancient Greece or Rome, what comes to mind? Probably a world of really rigid gender roles, right? Stoic male senators, dutiful wives, that whole picture. But what if that's only part of the story? What if the reality was actually far more complex and, frankly, a lot more colorful?
To really get this, we first need to look beyond the framework that we often just take for granted.
For centuries, the study of the classical world was overwhelmingly a history of men. Women, if they showed up at all, were often just treated as footnotes, extensions of the men in their lives. And this created a very specific and, as we're about to see, a very limited view of the past.
But now scholars are starting to challenge those old assumptions, and what they're finding is a much more complex and honestly a much more interesting reality.
The key here is to remove what scholars call the cis-heteronormative lens. Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it just means looking at the past without our modern assumption that everyone fit neatly into a strict male or female binary. It's a lens that automatically treats anything different as some weird exception instead of seeing it as a normal part of society.
And this is the core idea, right here. The history of the classical world isn't just about men and women in the way we might define them today. It's a history that includes people we might now describe as gender fluid, non-binary, intersex, and transgender.
So where do we find the evidence for all this? Well, we can start at the very top. I'm talking about Mount Olympus, with the gods themselves.
Just take two of the most famous deities. On one side, you have Athena, the goddess of wisdom. She presents as a masculine warrior and completely rejects traditional female roles like marriage. And on the other side, you've got Dionysus, the god of wine, who is totally fluid, shifting between masculine and feminine forms, kind of living on the edge of sanity and madness. And listen, these weren't some obscure minor figures. They were central gods in the Greek pantheon. Their complexity really shows that the ancient world didn't just tolerate gender diversity. It actively found ways to represent it at the absolute highest levels of its culture.
But of course, this complexity wasn't just limited to the gods. So let's look at how it appeared down here in the world of mortals.
And wow, once you start looking, the evidence is everywhere. We have historical records of the Galli, transgender priests who served goddesses in the Roman Empire. We have accounts of the Emperor Elagabalus, who openly defied male roles and apparently even tried to get surgeons to give him female genitalia. You have orators describing powerful women as manly and monstrous. The fact that intersex births were sometimes seen as sinister omens proves society was very aware of variations beyond a simple binary.
And get this, even symbols we think we understand had totally different meanings. In ancient Rome, the phallus wasn't just about male bodies. Nope, it was an icon of power and protection, used to guard soldiers, children, and citizens of all genders. It was a symbol of social power, not just biology.
So after all this, why is digging up ancient history so important for us today? What's the point?
Well, because when we acknowledge that the ancient world was so much more diverse than we've been led to believe, it does something really profound.
It gives us entirely new ways to understand our own conversations about gender today. It shows us that these discussions, they aren't new at all. They're actually part of a long and deeply human story, which, leaves us with a pretty critical question. What other histories have we been seeing through the wrong lens?